Hello everyone, in this video we will revise the acid, bases and salt chapter of class 10 science chapter 2. In this video we will discuss what kind of important questions can be framed from this part of the chapter. The first part is to learn a different examples of acid, that is H2SO4, HCl, HNO3, CH3, COOH, H2CO3. For bases, NaOH, KOH, calcium hydroxide, CaOH whole twice, MgOH whole twice, NH4OH. So above these acids are strong acid and last two are the weak acid, acetic acid and the carbonic acid. Similarly, all these bases are strong base and NH4OH, ammonium hydroxide, is the weak base. Now the next point is to learn the types of indicator related to these acid base indicators. These are the red litmus, which remain red in acid but it turn blue in base. Similarly, blue litmus, when added into an acid, it turn red in color but it remain blue in base. Then phenolphthalein is colorless in acid but it turn into pink color in base. Then one more indicator, that is methyl orange, which is red in color in acid and it turn yellow in base. So these are the indicators which are used to find out that the given substance is an acid or a base on the basis of their color. So this section of the chapter is important, where different examples of the natural indicators are given to you, that include the red cabbage leaves, turmeric, colored petals of some flowers like hydrogenia, petunia and grenadium. So these are some natural acid base indicator, and litmus is always obtained or extracted from lichen. So this can be framed in an 1 mark question, that litmus solution is purple dye which is extracted from, and different options are given to you. So one of the option will be lichen here, which is the correct answer. So next question here, that you have provided with the 3 test tubes, each contain, one of them contain a water, other contain an acid and other contain a base. One of them contain a distilled water, so consider this first as a distilled water. Other two contain an acid and a base. Now if you are given only one red litmus paper, how will you identify the content of each test tube? So when we have a red litmus paper and if we are adding in water, then there will be no color change, which means since we don't know that it is a water, we considered it as a water, or we can say acid. Then again we add that red litmus in another test tube, so now again we considered it as a water or acid. Then the third part, if we add that red litmus in base, it turn blue. So by this we confirm that this test tube contain base in it. So now that red litmus paper is turning into blue. Now when we add in any of the one test tube, if it remain the same, which means it is water, because when we have added red litmus then also it remained red, and now we are adding blue and it remaining blue, which means that test tube contain water. And if it turns into red in color, which means it contain acid in it. So these are the observation which you have to write in a paragraph form or different step forms, but the main story that you must learn, what is the color change in acid and base. Litmus, red litmus turn red in acid, blue in base. Blue litmus turn red in acid and again blue in base. Now the next important definition is olfactory indicators. So what are olfactory indicators? Those indicators which give different smell in acid and base. Now for example, vanilla essence or clove oil or onion retain their smell in acid but they become odorless in base. So these examples are of olfactory indicators which give different smell in acid and base. So you must learn the definition and the example. So next topic is reaction of metal with an acid or a metal with a base. So in both case a salt and hydrogen gas is released. So this is very important, that what happened when metal react an acid, it form a salt and release hydrogen gas, and how this gas detected. So when this gas is passed through soap solution, it form a bubble in which hydrogen gas is trapped, and if we bring burning splinter near to it, it bursts with pop sound. This is the diagram here. When in the acid we have added a salt. So this is an example. When in acid we have added the metal, then it produces the hydrogen gas, which when passed through a soap solution is form a bubble where hydrogen gas is trapped, and if we bring burning splinter near to it, it bursts with a pop sound. And this statement again form a back exercise in text question. Which gas is usually liberated when an acid react with the metal? So answer will be hydrogen gas. Illustrate with an example. Zn plus HCl forming ZnCl2 and H2. How will you test for the presence of this gas? So when it is passed through soap solution, it form a soap bubble in which hydrogen gas is trapped, and when we bring burning splinter near to it, it bursts with a pop sound. And sometime in CBSE the question framed like this: NaOH plus Zn, and this is a fill in the blank. So it forming Na2ZnO2, that is sodium zincate, and hydrogen gas is released here. So you can balance like twice of NaOH and rest will remain the same. Now the next property, which is framed in a form of a question: what happened when acid react with metal carbonate or metal bicarbonate? So carbonate here is Na2CO3, bicarbonate here is NaHCO3. In both the case, salt is formed, water is formed, and carbon dioxide is released. Now the important point, how this gas detected. So when this carbon dioxide is passed through lime water, it turns lime water milky, that is formation of calcium carbonate. But if we passes excess of carbon dioxide, then this milkiness disappear because of formation of bicarbonate. So this is a very important part, that what happened, how carbon dioxide detected by passing through lime water. What happened if we pass excess of carbon dioxide? Then the milkiness disappear due to the formation of calcium bicarbonate. Now one more way this question is framed here: a metal compound A react with dilute HCl to produce effervescence. A gas evolve which extinguish a burning candle. Extinguish burning candle means here carbon dioxide is evolved. Write the balanced chemical equation if one of the compound is calcium chloride. Now just for example, metal compound A react with HCl and one of the compound is calcium chloride, and here the gas which extinguish fire must be carbon dioxide. So by combining these two, we get this metal compound calcium carbonate. So you must learn to write the equation properly here. You have to mention metal A is reacting with HCl, produce effervescence, a gas evolve, extinguish fire. Yes, carbon dioxide will extinguish fire. Write a balanced chemical equation if one of the compound form is calcium chloride. So if it is calcium chloride, Cl comes from HCl, calcium and CO2 will form calcium carbonate, that is CaCO3 is the metal compound. This question is asked in CBSE and it has almost 3 parts. First part is to identify A, second part name the gas evolved, third part you have to write a complete balanced equation. So for balancing, I am writing here CaCO3, and since it is CaCl2, which means it will be 2HCl, so H2 will be balanced here. So this is a balanced equation for this part. And just previously we have discussed this equation. What happened when metal is added into an acid? It releases hydrogen gas, and then you have to write this balanced equation. And when this gas is passed through soap solution, soap bubble is formed where gas is trapped. When we bring burning splinter near to it, it bursts with a pop sound. So after the reaction with carbonate and bicarbonate, the next topic is the neutralization reaction. What happened when an acid reacts with an base? So then acid react with the base, it forms salt and water, and this type of reaction is known as a neutralization reaction. So define neutralization reaction. When an acid reacts with a base, it forms salt and water, and it is a highly exothermic reaction, and that reaction is known as a neutralization reaction. Now the next important part, what happened when metal oxide react with an acid? So it forms salt and water, and we know that salt and water is formed whenever acid and base reacted, and metal oxides are basic in nature. That is why salt and water is formed. So here if we have taken metal oxide, which means metal oxide nature is basic in nature. It is very important point. Non-metal oxides are acidic in nature, whereas metal oxides are basic in nature. Now the next important question, what do all acids and bases have in common? So all acids have H plus ion, all bases have OH minus ion. So this is a very important activity in which we can observe that aqueous acid solution conduct electricity. Now the question arises, why an acidic solution conduct electricity? Because aqueous acid solution contain H plus ion. Aqueous acid solution contain H plus ion, that is why it conduct electricity. Now here is one activity where two diagrams are there. In dry litmus there will be no change, but in the moist litmus paper it turns red in color. So why dry litmus paper does not change its color when dry HCl gas pass over it? Since both are dry and H plus ion is only released in presence of water, that is why dry HCl does not impart any color to dry litmus paper. So what happened on dry litmus when dry HCl gas passed over it? There will be no change. Define alkali. So all the water soluble bases are alkali. From here we can get an assertion and reasoning statement that all alkali are bases, but all bases are not alkali. Yes, this statement is true. And why this happened? Because bases may or may not be soluble. That is why they are not alkali. Because those bases which are not soluble, we cannot call them alkali. But all alkali are bases, because in general alkali is a water soluble base. So first it is a base, and since it is water soluble it become alkali. So all alkali are base, but all bases are not alkali because few bases are water insoluble. These are the in-text questions from this topic. Why should curd and sour substance are not kept in a brass or copper vessel? So curd contain lactic acid. Similarly, sour substance also contains some acids. So they react with metal and form a toxic salts and causes corrosion of vessels. That is why they are not kept in brass and copper vessel. It is very important, any of the sour substance, or we can say curd contain lactic, and sour, since it is sour in taste, which means it is acidic in nature, it also contain any kind of acid in it. Both of them can react with metal and form a toxic salt and causes corrosion of that vessels. That is why it is not stored in these kind of vessels. And one of the question frequently asked in exam, that why do HCl, HNO3 do not show acidic? Why do HCl and HNO3 show acidic character in aqueous solution while alcohol glucose does not show any acidic character? So HCl and HNO3 in aqueous solution just releases H plus ion, and these H plus ion combined with water, because it is aqueous solution, form hydronium ion. So that is why, because of release of that H plus ion, they act as an acidic nature. Whereas glucose, alcohol contain hydrogen but cannot dissociate in water. So now this H plus ion is not dissociated in presence of water, hence it do not show any acidic nature. Glucose formula is C6H12O6. It contains H, but it does not dissociate H into H plus ion. Hence it is not acidic in nature. Now next, why does an aqueous solution of acid conduct electricity? Just now we have discussed hydrogen ion in an acids are produced in presence of water. I have just discussed here that hydrogen ion in an acids are produced in the presence of water. So what happened? Just for example, if HCl is there and water is there, so it will be forming H3O plus ion and Cl minus. So because these ions are released and hence they can carry electric current, that is why they conduct electricity. Whereas alcohol or glucose do not release these ions, hence they do not conduct electricity. Then again this question which we have discussed, why does dry HCl gas does not change the color of dry litmus paper? Now the separation of H plus from HCl molecule cannot occur in the absence of water. Just we have seen here, the HCl only dissociate in the presence of water into ions. But if there is no water, because both are dry in nature, so separation of H ion from HCl will not take place. Hence there will be no change. Next important question, while diluting an acid, why it is recommended that acid should be added to water, not water to acid? Now dilution of acid is an exothermic process. So when acid added into a water, a large amount of heat is released and solution may splash out. This is a general condition. So if we add acid in water, then there is a less chance of accident, because if it is splashing out, then water is coming out. But if we add water in acid, then acid splash out and it harms us and causes burn. So it is always advisable to add acid into water, not water into acid. Again I am explaining the reason. If this container contains an acid and we are adding water into it, then because it is highly exothermic, all the acid will splash out and it will causes burn. But if we add acid into water, so now if it is splashing out, this water is of less concentration and it does not harm us. So it is always advisable to add acid in water. So always follow alphabetical. Alphabetical A is added into alphabetical end W, acid into water. It is just a small trick to learn this phenomena, to add acid into water to dilute an acid. Next, how is the concentration of hydronium ion affected when a solution of an acid is diluted? So when we are diluting the acid, the concentration of water increases, but since H plus ion or acid is in the same amount, so concentration of H3O plus now decreases. So on dilution, strength of acid decrease, or we can say concentration of hydronium ion decrease. But how is the concentration of hydroxide ion affected? When excess base is dissolved, now we are adding excess base into OH minus, means more OH into OH. So now concentration of OH minus increase. So these are the questions from the first half of the chapter. The second half of the chapter already I have discussed. So kindly practice these questions. These reasoning questions are frequently asked in the board exam. So kindly learn it and just do the written practice of these questions.